You've heard the stories of fortune and fame during the California Gold Rush. But what if I told you there's a dark side history books don't teach? Behind the glittering gold, people risked everything, and some paid the ultimate price. This is the untold story of greed, betrayal, and hidden tragedies in the gold rush. The rush begins. It was January 1848 when gold was discovered at Sutter's Mill, and almost overnight, California became the epicenter of the largest migration in American history. Tens of thousands of men, women, and families poured into the region, dreaming of striking it rich. But what most people don't realize is that this so-called golden opportunity came with a devastating human cost. Native communities were pushed off their lands, and entire ecosystems were destroyed in the hunt for gold. Miners battled not just the elements, but each other, as greed and violence erupted across the territory. Disease spread rapidly in crowded mining camps, with cholera, smallpox, and dysentery claiming thousands of lives. Crime was rampant, theft, murder, and even vigilante justice became a daily reality. The shining promise of gold masked a world of suffering that few dared to document. And while newspapers back east painted a picture of opportunity, letters from those who lived it tell a much darker story, a story of families torn apart, of fortunes lost overnight, and of dreams turned into nightmares, lawlessness, and hidden crimes. As the gold rush grew, so did chaos. Mining towns sprouted overnight, but they were lawless places where the only law was the one you enforced yourself. Saloons, gambling dens, and brothels became the heart of these booming settlements. Vigilante justice ran rampant, and murder often went unpunished. Famous outlaws emerged during this era. Men like Joaquin Murrieta, sometimes called the Robin Hood of the West, became legends, but their stories were filled with violence and revenge. Banditry, theft, and even murders became daily headlines in the camps, though most were never officially recorded. Yet the most tragic victims were the ordinary miners. Those who didn't strike gold often found themselves trapped in debt, beaten down by greed, or killed in disputes over claims. And women, though few in number, faced constant danger from exploitation to kidnapping, highlighting a brutal reality that history books rarely reveal. Meanwhile, the environment itself paid a price. Rivers were diverted, forests destroyed, and hillsides washed away, all in the name of gold. Hidden beneath the glittering promise of wealth was a world of suffering, corruption, and moral collapse. This was the dark side of the gold rush, not just fortunes lost, but lives shattered, communities destroyed, and a society pushed to its limits by greed. The human cost and hidden tragedies. Beneath the glittering gold, another story unfolded, one of pain, displacement, and unimaginable suffering. Native American communities, who had lived on these lands for centuries, were violently pushed aside. Their villages destroyed, their food sources stolen, and entire populations decimated by disease and violence. Even miners who came seeking fortune were not safe. Accidents were common in the mines. Tunnels collapsed, explosions ripped through camps, and mercury poisoning from gold processing claimed countless lives. Many families who arrived with dreams of prosperity were forced to watch their loved ones die or vanish in the harsh, lawless landscape. Letters and journals from the time reveal stories that newspapers deliberately ignored: desperate men driven to murder for acclaim, women surviving in hostile camps, and children orphaned in the chaos. For every story of wealth, there were dozens of tales of heartbreak, loss, and shattered lives. And yet, the lure of gold kept the rush alive. People continued to risk everything, hoping that perhaps, just perhaps, they might strike it rich. But behind every glittering nugget lay a trail of suffering, a hidden cost that few dared to acknowledge. Claim wars and corruption. As the gold rush intensified, tension over mining claims erupted into full-blown violence. Claim disputes often turned deadly, with miners resorting to intimidation, sabotage, and even murder to protect their rights to gold-rich land. These were known as the Claim Wars, a brutal chapter rarely discussed in textbooks. Corruption ran rampant. Local officials were often bribed or intimidated by powerful mining interests. Courts were slow or non-existent, and vigilante justice became the norm. Many miners learned the hard way that survival often depended not on skill or luck, but on ruthlessness. Some of the most infamous episodes involved entire mining camps being attacked. Men would ride into rival camps, destroy equipment, and steal gold. Newspapers sensationalized a few stories of success, but the day-to-day reality was one of fear, betrayal, and lawlessness. Gold brought fortune to a few, but misery to many. And behind it all were the silent victims, families displaced, children orphaned, and native communities pushed further from their ancestral lands. The gold rush may have built California's economy, but it did so on a foundation of human suffering and moral compromise. The aftermath and hidden legacy. By the mid-1850s, the frenzy of the gold rush began to subside, but the scars it left behind lasted far longer. Towns that had sprung up almost overnight were abandoned, families left destitute, and native communities further displaced. The dream of gold had destroyed more lives than it had enriched. The environmental destruction was staggering. Rivers were clogged with debris, hillsides washed away, and forests stripped bare, all in pursuit of fleeting wealth. Entire ecosystems were forever altered, and many of the scars are still visible today. Perhaps the darkest truth of all is this: while a few struck it rich, most left California poorer than they arrived, physically, financially, and emotionally. Greed, violence, and corruption defined the era, and the hidden stories of suffering were often ignored, erased, or forgotten. Yet these stories matter. They remind us that behind every golden legend, there are countless untold tales of human cost, resilience, and tragedy. The California Gold Rush was more than a search for wealth; it was a mirror of human ambition, and a cautionary tale about the price of greed. The glittering gold may have faded, but the dark legacy of the rush remains. Buried, hidden, and waiting to be remembered.